just starting Incentivize up, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it is my third startup.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot throughout these processes, and a lot of stuff that I will not repeat. I'm trying to build this one with a lot of knowledge and speed. One of the things that my first startup was a computer vision company, and we were young, we were dreamers. We thought, the pie in the sky, everything is possible. And so we tried to do at the very beginning almost everything all at the same time. Instead of focusing on one or two products, knowing our customers, we tried to build it and hope that the customers were going to come to us. It took us a long time to, I hate to say grow up or learn it the hard way, but we still managed to it was a win. We had created a beautiful patent portfolio of 150 patents, domestic and international. And we licensed it. So it was, but could we have done it quicker? It's quite possible.
Yeah.
So also we did something very, very complex.
So, I mean, you were in that company for 8 years, or was it longer?
So the whole story is that, I did banking for a decade, and then I started a computer vision company in 2004, and we sold it in 2019. So it was a long time. And mind you, when we started this computer vision company, the computing power, other than on the server side, was not readily available to us. So cloud computing, forget about it. There was no iPhones back then.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't, we weren't in the
no AWS, no AWS either.
No, it didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, these are beautiful things. We had our own servers, we had our own, and of course, the idea was to be able to have this computing power in a computer. At a certain point, we tried to do that at the very beginning, and the car was all computer. Now, of course, it's changed radically. If I started the company today, it would have been much faster, much easier.
So let's just go over the basic technology as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, was computer vision recognition. So recognizing the objects even in shadow. So if you had a high contrast between, say, a sunny side of the street and a dark side of the street, the computer wouldn't be confused by the shadow and would be able to discern objects within the shady side as well as within the sunny side.
Right. Although there's a lot of people that did object recognition. We didn't do that. What we did is a very basic component that you and I do on a regular basis. It's called human visual perception. So what we did is we took an image and we separated it between material and illumination. What does that mean? So illumination is the light that's being shined over the material, right? And the material is the material. Why is this important? Well, our brains do this constantly. In fact, your brain is doing it right now and is using an enormous amount of brain power just to be able to deal with this visual image, this visual stream that's coming to you. So why are we giving computer just one signal and saying, hey, figure it out? So, I don't know, you deal with it. If I turn the lights off right now, and I'm going to do this right now, see the lights just changed in my face. Yeah. Well, you didn't stop recognizing me.
No.
The computer would have looked at my face and saw a vast difference in pixel value from here to here. And yet you can do that without, in fact, I could show up tomorrow with a beard or with a hair and you would still recognize me. And that is human visual perception. That's why you can get into a car and drive around a neighborhood you've never been in. Without any sort of cues, you can drive.
Yeah.
So what we did with computers is the same thing. We took an image, and of course, we're doing this, 100 times per second, if not more. We're taking an image and we're separating, we're sending the computer two images. One is material, one is illumination. And by doing so, the computer can do the object recognition, right? We didn't do that part. There are other people that did that brilliantly, but the computer can all of a sudden now see better. So we're a trick in a way, because there was no new hardware. We weren't adding another camera. We weren't putting a LiDAR on the top of the car. We're just providing a new signal for the computer to understand. So now all of a sudden the cars could drive through potholes. Or I say drive through shadows and not think that they're potholes. They could drive through tunnels. When we started, you would go to a face recognition system and it would be giant lights being shined on your face because they could not deal with any shadows on your face.
Oh, I see.
Now, I don't know if you've seen them. If you go through these passport control things, there's
yeah.
no lights. Very limited.
I've been through quite a few in the past week.
Oh, you see, yes. Well, the new technologies doesn't need all this illumination because it can deal with the differences in light.
Yeah, it has a single source of light that right by the camera, it illuminates for a little bit, but it's not like you were saying, you're not bathed in light like you were.
Yeah, because the computer cannot see the way you and I see. So this opened up a whole avenue of products that I believe we sold the company and we're no longer involved in it, but maybe I had a little bit of PTSD that I needed to get away from this, but they are still licensing that technology, and it's still something that's a very important feature that I believe will be going on for a long time.
That's great. So, I mean, that's a really valuable contribution, I think. So it took you 15 years
yes.
to realize all the work that you did over those 15 years and finally liquidate, and sell the company. So if you were doing it again and it were 2004, what would you do differently than what things would you kind of skirt around and what things would you still plow through? Because I'm sure there's some things you plowed through that you still have to plow, even if it were the value of, even with the hindsight, you still might have to dredge through some of those channels, and then some of them you just skip right over. So what would you still do, and what would you do differently, and how would you shorten that timeline?
Yes. All right. Well, first is there's the time aspect that is very complex in this particular startup. This is a company that was started at the edge of when it was possible. If, like I said, if we had started this company today in 2023, we would have the computing power, we would have the clients, we would have the need. And back then in 2004, there was no assisted driving. We talked to people, there was no Tesla. We'd go and talk to Ford and they were like, they didn't see it. They couldn't see it, and they probably still can't see it. But so there's an aspect of time. When are you doing this? Now, the good thing is that because we started back in 2004, we didn't have a lot of competition. Computer vision was a nascent industry. We were not competing with Google or Amazon for computer vision talent coming out of CMU or Cornell or MIT. It was a lot easier. Today, we would be competing with them and their salaries would be astronomical. It would probably be untenable. So the time was a weird thing. We came to market, we built something before there was a customer, and then we had to convince the customer that they needed it. We started building when the computing power was just not readily available. There were no computers small enough to fit in a car or on a satellite. It just would have been impossible. So time, how would I do it differently in hindsight? If that was not an issue and computing power was not an issue and we weren't early in market, would be that I would go to clients and better understand what it was that they really needed instead of me trying to guess. Customer discovery, I guess, is the key word here. I was grasping at straws. I would go to clients like Adobe and say, wouldn't this be great if you use this? And they'd be like, yeah, but that's not how we use it. And we're like, oh, Jesus, we just sunk 6 months to 9 months of development into something we thought Adobe might want to use for their Photoshop or Illustrator. When in fact, it didn't fit. So customer discovery, not just finding the customer, but actually sitting down and talking to them way beforehand, and offering our abilities to build stuff for them. Would be my.
So now, how would you approach? So how would your approach to customers be different? You're saying customer discovery, not just finding out who might need your product, but also figuring out by conversing with them, what they might need, what aspects
they might need, and also how their tech stack flows. Now, we had a very, if in hindsight, probably also pick a company or pick a product that's a lot easier to develop than computer vision. But that's what we decided. So in this particular case, it's very technical, and to get one client, we would be very lucky and happy. To integrate into their tech stack would be a very complex situation. We are very niche. It's not like you just add it on. It's not you just glue it on to their system and say, yeah, voila, it's done. No, this was a big lift each time.
So as you say, it wouldn't just be possible to build a plugin and then sell it to individual customers or something like that, like build a Photoshop plugin and make it work, or that wouldn't be possible.
Well, first of all, the person plugging it in would have to be extremely knowledgeable and understand how to use it. It's not for the layman use. I mean, this particular product was just could not be designed that way. It's not a plugin. We had an API that we were heavily, that we sent to clients to test out, but we'd have to sit with them and show them how to use it and how to integrate it. So again, a big labor cost there.
Right. So what worked? I mean, eventually you did sell this company, and obviously highly sophisticated technology. You could argue it's a great contribution to computer vision, to self-driving cars and therefore to society itself.
Hope so.
You could argue, I mean, you could argue many things, but and I don't want to get too ridiculous here, but I think those are legitimate, possible outcomes. But so what worked? What went really well, and what would you repeat? What are you going to repeat now in your green business? Incentivize Green, I think.
Yeah. Well, speed. Knowing that we are, in essence, we had the luxury of going it slow. We hired a lot of professors and PhDs who were working at a different speed than most startups. We didn't have a lot of competition. So this is a different breed. I would not hire those kind of people again. They're great, they're academics, and their goal, their measure of success was to have a paper published and submitted to the computer vision conference once a year. That was their idea of success. And so there was no alignment for them. They're like, oh great, I got stock options, and but really my prestige as a professor, as a PhD candidate, is these papers and get peer reviewed. That was their the holy grail. So that's definitely
Isn't there a good side to that, to hiring academics? Isn't your cash burn slower with academics than it is with professional programmers or professional talent who are just looking to make money?
Yes, I mean, that's true. Although professors are just as greedy as the rest of us. They are actually they would like to augment their status as professors and make some money. But having said that, it's true. But in this particular case in computer vision, we needed that expertise. There was no way that we could just have a bunch of developers who did not understand computer vision build something. It was very it was a physics-based approach that could not just be, you just send developers on it. So in this new green fintech, it's a lot simpler. However, our big issue is we have to deal with the government, so we have a lot of people that work in policy, and so a little bit of similar. When I talk to these people, I have a same feeling as I did when I was talking to the professors. These people are very, they work for the government, and it's a different beast. So, but we're trying to speed the whole process up. We've got developers. It's not rocket science like computer vision. It's just a lot of data that needs to be processed.
So what are you taking from your vision startup that you're bringing to the table here? What is completely different?
What I'm bringing from the computer vision companies, well, definitely a good management background that I learned working with people, cash management, working with investors, and working with clients. Those aspects that's can be learned in these incubators and accelerators, but it's really the practice of doing this year in, year out. That's what I'll take with me to the other startups, and I hope that is fruitful. What I won't take with me is the complexities and the slowness that I can't tolerate anymore. The fact that things drag on and on and on. So I don't want to work with, have a situation where clients, I have a software that is so complex that it can't be easily integrated into their client's software stack.
Right. So what time frame? So the original time frame was 15 years. I'm sure you thought you would have been done in 6 or.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you went in thinking, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to be out in X number of years, but less than 15. What's your time frame now with the Incentivize Green?
Incentivize? Well, we hope that not only will we be operational and making revenue within this year, so that'll be a much shorter time frame already. We're also building it, which I didn't do with Tandem. I'm hoping to build this company so that it is acquirable, so it can easily be absorbed into a larger entity.
Oh, that's really interesting. Let me stop you there for a minute.
Okay.
So what's the difference between an easily acquirable company and an asset that's more difficult to absorb and realize the value from?
Well, think about the first one was that it was very it was hard to understand. It was, maybe we didn't do a very good job explaining it. Now I'm maybe better at it explaining it today, 2023, than I was, in 2010. But it was not something that they could wrap their mind around. We were too bloated with professors and staff, and it was it was not a company that you could easily absorb. For example, if you absorbed us at the time, there would be professors from all sorts of universities. That in itself raises red flags for some companies. So, yeah, and there was also some of our code was built in MATLAB, which was not optimal. MATLAB is an experimental, platform for testing things. And although some of it we wanted to port over, it just, without an actual client for that particular product, it wasn't feasible.
Right.
So we had a lot of stuff like, okay, yeah, this is great, but this is all in MATLAB, and what can you do with that? So I'm getting into the weeds here. This new company, we're trying to be lean, mean. We're trying to be uncomplicated. The financing is also uncomplicated, so that there's no weird financial structure. So in this particular case, I'm doing very standard. Everything's standard. If you think of a standard startup, we probably are hitting the check marks on it.
Okay, so in the previous one, how did you raise the money for the first one, and what has that taught you about raising money for the second one?
Yeah, well, we were very lucky on the first one because we found an investor who was an engineer, who was an inventor, and who had the money, and he was willing to invest in this. So that was really our first shot in the arm. How just continued over the years, and we were always operational. So for 15 years we were managed to pull it off, without getting too much details. But
did you manage to get additional investors to keep the ball rolling, or was it just the one investor who kept believing in you and kept believing in you?
That and the VC, yeah. So, but at the end, I think we were all very tired. We were exhausted after that experience. It was a long time, maybe too long. So that's the other thing that I don't want to repeat with the new startups is that, after 5 years as an entrepreneur, you start, the thrill of building something is gone, and now you're just running a company. And I learned for myself that I enjoy the thrill of building. I like the thrill of creating new structures, building from the ground up, not necessarily running it day to day. So that's not as interesting. So with this new one, we haven't found that golden investor yet who's willing to put in millions of dollars. But we have found a good collection of investors who are interested in green technology, interested in mitigating climate change, and not necessarily just giving it to a non-for-profit, who are seeing this company as a potential to make revenue and return a profit on their investment.
And so what were this new one is new, so I'm assuming you haven't encountered many dark days yet, right? But
yeah,
sorry, carry on.
No, as an entrepreneur, you can have down days. You just wake up and you're just like, well, what have I done? Not again. This is just so. What was I thinking? I'll be sitting on the beach somewhere.
But you must have had some really dark days in those 15 years.
Oh yeah.
Would you like to describe? And this is a little sensitive, but could you go over one of them and like one of the issues that you had without getting too specific, and how you overcame it? Like,
I gotta be careful, because there's a story I would like to tell, but I fear I might get sued. So maybe not.
Keep it clean and keep it lawsuit free.
No, it would have been clean. I think they would not have liked me divulging this information. A lot of time has passed, so maybe they don't care anymore. But no, I mean, there was some issues dealing with the VCs. That's always unpleasant, and that's what let's leave that one. But another one was just getting close to running out of cash. Several times where we had to take pay cuts, or we'd stop paying ourselves, the management team, for a few months just to get over that hump, the cash flow hump. And that was scary, because we were like, okay, so what, this is it? Is this really it? We're like, we've been doing this for 8 years, and all of a sudden now we're done because we messed up because the client, we couldn't get the money, and it was tough. I had to conserve money sometimes, and then other times it was, it wasn't an issue. So it was, if anything, I can say to entrepreneurs, is cash flow management is key. It's not sexy, it's not fun, but projecting out your expenses and try and flatten out those highs and lows. So don't create a big burn rate, which is what I'm trying not to do in this new startup. So I'm trying to be very lean, not a big burn rate, and hopefully succeed. So
that's great advice. I think everybody can use that, even if they're not in a startup. Like my development company is not really a startup. You know, it's been
No.
running 25 years. I would not call it a startup at this point. But but leveling out the highs and the lows, that's really good advice for everybody, I think.
Yeah, and man, I would say stay away from VCs, but you know, it's a necessary evil sometimes. Find the best VCs if you can. Find VCs who are interested in supporting you, interested in helping you succeed, and not interested in immediate return on investment, and willing to cut you out for expediency. Once you have a non-scientist, for example, on the board trying to tell you what the science is, or when you have somebody who's in my case, in this new one, a non-climate tech saying, you know, you guys are wasting your time with this green stuff. You should just, you know, try and make money by selling big SUV trucks. Then you know you've got a problem. You know, you're like, okay, well, that's not the corporate mission, but yes, that will make you a lot of money, which is what the VCs are trying to do. That is their goal.
Okay, I mean, I think that's an extreme example, but
It is.
it's an extreme example. But what do you do? So, I mean, that's how I came about the title of this podcast, The Founder's Dilemma. The original article was in the, I think, MIT. I can't remember which one. MIT Business Review, and it's talking about the founder's dilemma being you can either have money or you can have power, but you can't have both.
No.
And so how would you, like, what kind of balance do you strike between money and power? Because the way you get money is by selling equity.
Yes.
And then the people who have bought the equity, they have influence. So what I mean, you've done this rodeo twice before, or you're doing it the third time right now.
Yeah.
So what's your advice regarding money and power?
It's a delicate dance, and it's like a tightrope. And this is what a lot of entrepreneurs fall off the tightrope, right? I mean, you have to give it, for example, for all the jokes people give and say about Mark Zuckerberg, and how he, you know, what kind of person he is and what he's doing, I have to give him kudos to staying on the wagon, staying on the horse this whole time. He must have been, so many people tried to pull him off, and but he's still doing it, and so I congratulate him for that, because that must have been really hard. So yes, again, power and money. You need money or you can't succeed unless you're, you know, you've got a trust fund, in which case you probably don't have the drive to do it. But if you have the drive, trying to marry those two, you need to find the right investor, an investor who believes in your mission, believes in your vision, and is willing to support you to a certain point. You could run into a problem where your investor is fantastic and then he dies and his son takes over, and then you're misaligned all of a sudden. You could run into a situation where you have the wonderful VC that has a mission, and all of a sudden they're absorbed by a bigger entity. You could have a situation where, as an example, SVB Bank. It's not the perfect example, but this was a bank that was designed for startups and for entrepreneurs. Well, not anymore. Is a different animal. So overnight, you are. What's that?
Years or something. It worked for 30 years or something, right? Or 40 years, or
Yeah. Well,
it was around for a minute.
For the last 10 years, they've really started to become a big part of the startup community, and you could see that they not only were they supporting all these companies, but they were giving out loans, and all of a sudden that is now in question. So I haven't followed exactly what SVP looks like today, but here you have a case where things change overnight. So yes, it's a delicate balance between power and money. You got it. This is something you need to keep a good eye on. who am I taking money from, and what does it mean? Is this person a meddler who's constantly, you have the situation where you have smart money, right, and dumb money. And there's probably lots of other terms for it too, but it's great to get money from people who say, okay, here's your money, and don't bother me again. I don't want to know. I don't want to hear anything from you. That's great. However, they really don't. They won't introduce you to anybody. They won't really help you on your journey. And then you have people who do that, which is great. And then you have your meddlers, who are constantly questioning every single decision you make, put doubt in your mind, and actually make you make the wrong decision sometimes. Because this, you say, oh, well, my investor keeps telling me that I should be doing this because they'll make money. And then you do that, and it turns out it was the wrong way.
What other things have you learned through your experience? Because you've been doing this for like 18, 20 years
God,
since you left the investment banking?
Yeah, I did investment banking for almost a decade, which was talk about a great boot camp for business and work. I was working for a bulge bracket firm, and it's sometimes I'd sleep underneath my desk. It was crazy hours, especially when you're an analyst, and you get exposed to so many different variety of clients, but different problems. So although I probably cursed it at the time, I think it was a great base that I got. And then but then instead of a lot of my friends continued doing finance, stayed in banking, or continued doing finance for VCs, and they might be much richer than me, but I feel like I have had a richer life, and more experiences, and more joyous experience.
So actually that leads me to something else. So I know you have a family.
I do.
So work-life balance, like you're doing a startup, you've got to do 14-hour days or maybe even more.
Yeah.
How do you strike a work-life balance under those circumstances when you have investors breathing down your neck and they want to see returns, and you truly believe in the mission and you're trying to get it done, and you hit some kind of roadblock, and then your wife or your girlfriend calls and says, the kids want to say goodnight. So what do you do?
Well, it's a good question. So this is something I did not even know about myself until somebody pointed it out to me, that throughout my entire life, my entire career, even in banking, I managed to always live close to the office. So when I was in banking, I got an apartment across the street from the office, which was brilliant for me because that enabled me to sleep a little bit longer. And now I do the same thing. I try and live as close as possible to my work, and still be able to separate the two. When I leave this room, the door closes, and I'm in my own world. But so yes, in this particular case, I'm working. Now it's acceptable. You work from home, but this is my office inside my house in Manhattan. When I with the other company, I had a workspace, sort of like a WeWork. It was 2 blocks away. Again, trying to minimize the distance from work, and so that you could easily be with the family, be with the wife, be with in your life, because otherwise you could be consumed by it. You could be working night and day. So that's one thing. The other thing I would say is just at a certain point at night, turn off the laptop and try and read a book. Try and just disconnect. Sometimes I just completely disconnect. People get upset with me because they send me emails and they say, you didn't respond. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just disconnected. I did not look at anybody's emails. And you have to.
How long do you disconnect for? Like 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours?
Like a full day. You need it. It's on the weekends, for example, it's necessary. You can't survive otherwise, or you can, but it's just not going to be very fruitful.
Interesting. That's great advice. I think that's great advice for anybody. I have a slightly different mentality with regards to distance from work.
Yeah.
I live in Harlem. There's WeWork in Harlem. I choose not to go there. I have a co-working space I go to. It's on 37th Street and Fifth Avenue, and it gives me a nice commute. So I like the commute. I like getting on the train or getting on my bike and riding downtown.
Okay.
And coming back, and then I feel like I can disconnect at that point. Once I go back, then the laptop is closed most nights. Not every night.
It is true. I could see that. That's a beautiful way, and maybe that's something I lack, which is that my disconnect is a few seconds, a few minutes. So yeah, how long does the commute take for you?
I recently bought an e-bike kit for my Brompton, and with that it's like 25 minutes, or with the A train it's 25 minutes.
Okay.
And then if I'm riding a regular bike, it's about 35-40 minutes.
Yeah.
And if I get on a local train, it's about 35-40 minutes. So it's somewhere between 25 and 45 minutes. And I find that, if I'm on the bike, I ride through Central Park. It's just beautiful. It doesn't matter what season it is, whether it's raining or it's sunny. It's just always beautiful to go through Central Park. I love that. And I try and I used to time my rides and see if I could beat myself. And then I figured out quite recently, I know this is embarrassing, but I'll tell you anyway. I figured out that was kind of dangerous. I was
Okay. I hope you're wearing a helmet.
So I stopped, but I stopped timing myself. But I have a rough idea of how long it takes me. But the especially the physical exercise, but even just walking to the subway and sitting on the train, as long as there's not too many crazies on the subway, which is variable. Yeah, that's a variable, but makes it interesting, right? Gives you something to talk about. But and then going there and then meeting people, the people I work with, the people I work in the same space as, they're just friends. They're not colleagues. My colleagues are all remote, but it's nice to be with people. I like sitting across the desk from somebody. And of course, some days I get there, like Fridays, and nobody's there because it's New York and people still haven't started going back to the office.
That's true. I do miss that. I have to say, before COVID, I was in an office and that was wonderful. I was seeing everybody and commingling, and now I need to get back to that. I've been a little bit used to working from home, but I need to get back to it.
Yeah, there's the convenience, but there's less serendipity. I mean, what I really find is there's serendipity when you're around people.
Yes.
You can find things that you would never have stumbled upon in this, remote work from home world. It doesn't
Absolutely. I mean, just I got so much energy. I went to a meeting at it was a Clean Tech Open meeting in New York City. Sorry, I went to a meeting for Clean Tech Open on the Upper East Side, and just being around people, like-minded people who are trying to do something similar, gave me so much energy. For the next 3 days, I was like on cloud nine. I was thinking about thinking of ideas and how we can expand the company, and we do this, we can do that better. We can meet with this, we can collaborate with this person. So yes, I think it's essential. And that's the other thing the advice I would give to startups. Try and find a good incubator, try and find good accelerators. I know they're hard to get right now, but especially in your field, these people will help you, they'll move you forward, and they'll give you ideas. That's the name of the game. And also don't worry about, people are so worried about their IP, they're being secret about things, and so I can't talk to you what I'm doing. It's when I'm done and I'll release it to the public. Well, that's a bad move. Talk to as many people as you can. You'll get feedback that you desperately need to build your product, to build your company.
So thank you, Matthias. I think this has been wonderful. We've got some great talking points about specific things that founders can learn from your experience. We've got some, commuting tips from me about not timing your commute on your bicycle. So Matthias from Incentivize Green, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you in the real world soon.
Yeah, I know. Well, now I know where your office is, because I
Yeah.
used to go to that WeWork. So on the 34th and 5th Avenue.
No, it's not a WeWork actually, but anyway, you should come by and
Oh, okay, sorry, it's not a WeWork.
Yeah, that's okay. We've made our own WeWork.
That's good. That means your company's on to bigger and better things. So congratulations.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.